third stage, which I call reflection. Reflection could take one day, it could take 1 month or 1 year. It really depends. It's up to you. But this is a time to think deeply about your life and where you want to go, how you want to recreate your life as you move forward. How do you go through this reflection? There's many ways to do this. I have many models also, but I think it has to start with your purpose. You know, what is the purpose of your life? Who are you? Where do you want to make a difference in the world? It's kind of esoteric, so I suggest instead just to think about what problems at this point of your life really bother you about the world, and where do you want to make a contribution? You know, if you had to answer the question, the purpose of my life is, what would you say? So where do you want to make a contribution, I ask, at this point of your life? I think that's most important during the reflection. From there, you can start to think of other things like, what are my values? I call it prize. What do you prize most in your life? What's most important to you now? Not what you think should be important, or what your spouse says is important, or what society says is important, but what's most important to you now? And how do you start to move towards what's most important, your values? And it's also important to look at your behaviors. Are you spending most of the day doing activities that align to your most important values? In my research, most people spend about 80% of their day doing things that have nothing to do with their core values. What's nice is once you've figured out during reflection what your values are, you can start to put goals to them. 3-year goals, 2-year goals, one-year goals. You can start to align, and that I call that a roadmap for your life. It's very important during reflection to come up with a roadmap for your life. Because if you don't put together a roadmap, then any road will get you there. It amazes me. So many people will come up with a roadmap to get to Aunt Wilma's house for Christmas dinner. But when it comes to their own life, there's no roadmap. A lot of us climb this corporate ladder. Climb, 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 climb. And you know what happens after 40 sometimes? We get to the top of the ladder, we look out, and we realize, oh no, it's leaning against the wrong wall for me. So during reflection, who are you? Your purpose. What's most important to you? The third is, what's your perspective of yourself? How do you feel about you? During reflection, it's going to be painful. You're going to be alone. People are going to say, whoa, Craig just went through a bad experience. I'm going to give him some time. And you're like, I don't want time. I want help. But during reflection, it's important to think about, who am I as a person? How do I feel about me? That's perspective. The way I feel about myself is, and if you don't like it, the good news is you could change it. So during reflection, it's really important right now to have a good sense of self. And that leads you to looking at new possibilities for your life. To start to ask yourself, what's possible for me in my life and my work? A lot of us ask the opposite, what's impossible? And you know, the mind doesn't really like a vacuum. So if you ask it a question, it's going to come up with the appropriate answer. So you want to ask yourself positive questions right now. As you start to look at more possibilities for your life, you could also, in reflection, start to look at what role, or I call it place, do I want to carry out in the world? All of you kind of have a sense of which work fits you and which work doesn't. And now it's time during reflection to really think about this. And that leads you to think about what I call position or attitude. What work could you do for the rest of your life that would give you a great attitude? Where you get up on Monday excited, you're just running to work. Running. You know, I take one of my I'm a professor. I take one of my psychology classes a couple times a year to Larkspur Landing in Marin, about 7:30. And I say, I want you to watch people as they go to work. And we see, this is what we see. We see briefcase, coffee, and this is how most people look. And then I bring them back there at 6. And I say, now watch the people. This is how they look. The men are running. They're loosening up their ties. The women are taking off their high heels. Oh. And I say, students, what's wrong with this picture? It's reverse. People should be excited to run to work and a little unhappy at the end of the day because now they have to wait till the next day to continue. You know, Mondays are my greatest days. Fridays are the worst because I have to wait till Monday to continue. So during reflection, it's important to think about attitude. It's also important to think about your passions. What are you really passionate about? You know, if I sent you to a bookstore right now for 2 hours, what part of the bookstore would you go to? You don't have to tell us, but actually it would be interesting. what part of the bookstore would you go to and why? And we will go to different parts of the bookstore during different times of our life. I find that the bookstore test, as I call it, is one good way to think about, where your current interests are. By the way, it's really important, as a footnote, right now for you to align your abilities and your interest. You take a piece of paper and you write, what are the top 3 to 5 things that I'm really, really good at and I'm motivated to do? It's better to be interested in something and not know how to do it because you'll be motivated to learn than to be really good at something but no longer interested. So what are your abilities and interests? And the intersection of abilities and interests is where vocational passion is. But you have to be motivated. The worst reason to take a job is because you're good at it. I'm going to repeat that. The worst reason to take a job is because you're good at it. You also have to enjoy it. You have to be motivated to do this kind of work. In my office, I have a light that's hanging down. It's broken. I know how to fix it, but I don't want to. I'm lazy. So it's been there hanging for about 2 years. I can do it, but I don't want to do it. See, you have to be motivated, even if you're good at something. So what are your passions? What are your passions? What do you love to do that time just flies? You feel in bliss. You're so excited. You can't wait to do it. This is a good time during reflection to start to think about that. In 2003, I wrote my first book. I called it P is for Perfect, Your Perfect Vocational Day. The idea was, if you could, like an artist, design a day that you could live over and over and over for the rest of your life, focused around your work, what kind of a day would that be? When would you get up? Who would you be with? Where would you go? What would you do? When would you go to sleep? And I find with my coaching clients that those individuals that are able to visualize, to envision their perfect vocational day, if they really could do it, are actually able to move towards it. Of course, the exercise starts with, I'll give you $50 million. And I'll ask you to, okay, without any money, what are you going to do the next 6 months? And then we kind of talk about that. And then I take the money away and I say, okay, how will you live the rest of your life with the vision that you had when you had the money? So perfect vocational day. Think about that. If you could design a day that was just perfect for you, where would you go? What would you do? Focused around your work. Because if you don't have your own vision, someone else, believe me, will give you this vision for you. And it might not be the right vision for you. Next, it's important to think about right now during reflection. What do I do now? This is all great, but what do I do right now? And I think there's 3 things to consider. One is relationships. Do I have the right support network around me to support me right now? If not, sometimes you have to get a new team. You have to work with your team. But it's important to have people around you that really support your dreams, your goals, your values. Second is money. Money is a very delicate topic, But during a reflection, it's important to think about money. How do you want to move forward in life? How do you want to make your money? How much do you need versus want? When you start to think about money, many things change. By the way, I've noticed in my own life that when you do work that you really enjoy, you treat your money with a lot of respect. And you spend it very carefully. But when you do just a job, you spend the money quickly, and it disappears. So during a reflection, it's really important to think about how you feel about money and what trade-offs you're willing to make, and really think deeply about that. I find very quickly that people fall into one of 4 money categories. Plenty of money, plenty of time.